All right, hello everyone. Welcome to WolverineSoft Studio. If you haven't already, please fill out this form. We had a bit of time, so I'm probably gonna move on, but maybe we'll write the link up on the board at the end here or go back to the slide. This is just for general availability on Sundays, trying to figure out when to, Saturdays.
Sorry, I also included Saturdays.
Oh, including Saturdays as well, just to figure out when people want to have these studio meetings on the weekends. We did 11 a.m. because that was what was good last semester, but we're trying to see what works now for this group. All right, so moving into it, this is WolverineSoft Studio. This is our pre-kickoff meeting for Project Blue, our game project this semester. So, welcome. So if you haven't already, please change your name in the Discord server. Add roles using the bot in the bot commands channel. You'll see several examples of how to use that, how to get that all set up. If you're not already in the server, we have a link up here that links to it. It's just a bit.ly link. And then also for the application, we have that written there. If you all can't see, we'll probably write it up over there as well. If you have received an override, you have to manually enroll in the course in Wolverine Access if you haven't already, so please make sure to do that before your override expires. I think it does, not entirely sure. Also, please enable notifications on Discord. That will be our main communication for the server, or for the studio this semester, so if you are not in the server and you don't have notifications on, you will be missing important announcements. That means you'll be missing meetings, missing assignments, stuff like that. So please, please, please enable notifications. If you have questions about how to do this, talk to me or talk to Nico at the end, and we'll get you set up. All right, so what is WolverineSoft Studio? So WolverineSoft Studio was founded to provide experience in larger multidisciplinary game projects at the University of Michigan for students interested in game development. There's not a lot of game dev related things to do here at U of M. There's WolverineSoft General, where we just have discussions and meetings, tutorials and such. And there was EECS 494, the one game development course here. But other than that, there's basically nothing at U of M. So to fill the space and get something interesting for us, we decided to make WolverineSoft Studio. And it's useful because no matter what profession you're in, working in a team with all these different people, getting to learn different mindsets, see different perspectives really helps you in whatever industry you go into. It's also good for communication purposes. And first and foremost, WolverineSoft Studio is about learning. It's about teaching people how to make games, how to work with others. We want to make something polished, we want to make something great, but really everyone's experience here is what matters. So if you're not enjoying this, if you're not learning something, then that's an issue on our fault, and please tell us, and we'll do whatever we can to fix it. Never hesitate to reach out to us. Yeah. All right, so here is our quick agenda. First, we're going to explain the structure of the studio. Our leadership hierarchy, directors, leads, pods, etc. If you don't know what any of that is, that's okay. We'll cover it all. Then we're going to go into the culture of the studio, how we expect interactions to happen between studio members. Then we're going to cover Git, Jira, Confluence, and Agile, which are different production tools that we'll be using this semester for project management and such. This will be covered more in depth on Monday and Sunday, or next Sunday and next Monday. So yeah. Then after that, we'll be revealing what game pitch was chosen. That was chosen by the leads, and we'll get into that later. Then we'll go over the project timeline, when our different milestones are and such, and when our deliverables will be due. So then we're going into expectations for pre-production, which will be our first kind of section of work here, where we are figuring out stuff about the game and trying to figure out what exactly this project is. We know the general pitch, but there's a lot that still needs to be decided off of that. Then Austin Yarger will be coming up and talking about MDP grading. He is our faculty advisor for the MDP portion of WolverineSoft Studio. So if you're involved in that at all, you will have to listen to him. He is your man. He is in charge of all of us. All right, then we're going to be breaking off into departments, and we're going to do a bit of introduction, some icebreakers, get to know each other, learn your team members' names if you can. If you can't, that's okay. Try and do it by next week. We want to get comfortable, get to know each other, and have a nice open environment. So first off, I'm going to get into the studio structure. So in the studio, we have different departments. So these are art, design, programming, and audio. Most of you probably are familiar with these because you were required to sign up for one of them on the application form. But next up, we have pods. Yay! So pods are the way that we structure our teams beyond just departments. Pods focus on individual features of the game. So like, we had like a player pod last semester that would focus on just player movement, the player's art, the player's audio, everything about that. And it's one team member from each department. Well, not specifically one, but team members from each department contribute to a pod to make sure that there's communication between each pod, or between each department, and everyone's working together. And we found that it is the best structure for our team and for our studio. And in pods, we have a pod lead, and the pod lead is in charge of assigning tasks to pod members, making sure that they're keeping up to date with everything and getting work done. All right, so then we'll go into leadership. So we don't just have pod leads, we also have department directors and producers. So producers, we have two producers right now, me and Nico. Say hi.
Hello.
So Nico and I are in charge of overall coming up with tasks that need to be done for the project, managing scope of the project, and ensuring unity between the different moving parts on the project. Then we have department directors who oversee individual departments and assure quality. So like our programming director will be in charge of coming up with our style guide for coding and making sure that any code that is being produced is up to standard. And then our design director, well, creative director is the role now, is Alex here. He is in charge of making sure that all of the different departments and pods are maintaining a certain vision and a certain idea of the game and sticking to the design. Then we have our audio lead, or audio director, Faulkner, over here. And Faulkner is in charge of directing the audio team, and same sort of thing, just making sure that any pods, any audio being produced by pods is up to standard and following a certain tone. And then same thing with art. The art lead, Amber, is in charge of making sure that artists follow the style guide and producing our workflows and stuff like that. And then we covered pod leads before. Program. I thought I said that first.
Yeah, Max.
Oh, well, Max. Max, our programming director, will not be here today. He is not available. So when you'll be meeting with your programming director later today, you'll instead be meeting with Nico. He'll be filling in. Yeah, moving on. OK, so next we need to talk a bit about the culture of our studio. So one of the important thing for our studio is in respect, but probably the most important characteristic of our team is candor. So this really, the idea here is to be, I don't know that frank is the right word, but be, yeah, honest, I suppose, with people. Don't prioritize trying not to hurt someone's feelings when you want to talk about something. If there is an issue with something in the team, say it. If you are upset about something, say it. If you don't speak up about something, what that leads to is bad ideas not being fixed. So never try and spare someone's feelings. Don't be mean about it by any means, but be candid, but don't be hostile. You know, we all want what's best for the game, and we're all here to learn. We're all new at this. You know, we're students. That's okay. Mistakes happen. But really, don't hesitate to voice any issues, complaints, or suggestion. It's my job to hear you out. Don't be afraid. So just reach out if anything at all goes wrong. To me, your pod leads, your directors, anyone. All right. Next, we're going to get into our production tools we'll be using this semester. So first up, Git. So if anyone is not familiar, Git is a version control software. So what Git allows for is multiple developers working on the same things at the same times. It allows for sharing files across the internet. It tracks changes in the project and allows rollback in case of problems. So if you accidentally delete all of your work, oh my God, everything's gone, this is a mess, I screwed something up really bad, that's okay. We're using Git. You can pull back a previous version and you'll be okay. As long as we all stick to the right workflow of using Git and pushing any changes that we've made up to the cloud, then everything will be okay. We'll be going more in depth into this on Sunday because this is a very cursory, just this is what Git is. But yeah. And also, this semester, we are requiring that all members use Git. If you're in the art team, you'll be using Git. I know it's rough. It's going to be difficult to learn. That's OK. It's going to make things a lot easier for us because last semester, not having artists use Git was a big bottleneck for us. And so it's something that we're trying to get over. So it's going to be a bit difficult. It'll be a harsh learning experience, but that's OK. We're willing to take the time to go through it. All right. Next up, we have Jira. So Jira follows what's called an Agile Workflow. So it's all about iterating on your work over and over again. You have different sprints that you're working on tasks over 2 weeks. And then at the end of the 2 weeks, you have like a milestone. And it's just sort of, the idea is that you have a fixed budget. So right, we have a fixed number of studio members. We have a fixed amount of time. We have 1 semester to make this game. So from that, we need to adjust our scope of the game. You know, some features might have to get cut. Some might get added, depending on if we have more time or more people than we thought. So really, the idea here is just being agile about the work that we produce. All right, and then from that, how does Jira relate? Well, Jira is an issue tracking software and agile project management tool. We use it because it's used in the industry and it has a strong focus on iterative work. The Jira isn't quite set up at the moment, but over the next week or so, we'll be adding people to it, as well as anyone who hasn't been added to the Google Drive or the Git or the Discord. All of that will be things that we'll be taking care of. Next up, we have Confluence. And Confluence is complicated. We haven't used it this semester, so I'm not really sure what it is, but Nico here will be talking about it for a quick second for us.
Confluence is essentially a really nice and integrated with Jira way of essentially kind of having like a team wiki or like a team repository for documentation. It's particularly useful because one, like I said, it's integrated with Jira, which basically means whenever you write documentation for some task that you're doing on Jira, you can link it to that issue. And whenever you say your issue is done, then it'll be reflected in Confluence, for example, and it'll say resolved. But the thing we really liked it for is this idea of having like a wiki for what the game is, and a game design wiki, where essentially you can link to different pages. It works exactly like Wikipedia does, but it would be specific to the design of the game. And then for programming is another really useful thing we found, where designers and programmers are going to have to use different scripts, for example, for the game, and this way we can have a very easily searchable and accessible platform for having documentation for any script. So essentially you just like look up the script name, boom, there's a page that tells you about how it works, like how you should interface with it, things you shouldn't change, etc. It's just going to be a way that we disseminate information, have documentation, and just try and make sure everyone's on the same page.
Cool. Thank you, Nico. Yep. All right, next up, Discord. So most of you have probably joined the Discord already, but if you haven't, again, there's the link there. So Discord is a free, lightweight messaging and calling service. Basically, the idea behind it is there are different servers. Servers have different channels. There's text and voice channels. And channels can be visible depending on what roles you have. Roles are an important thing in Discord. Well, they can be. The way that we use it, it is. So if you haven't already given yourself a role on Discord, please do. We have artist, designer, programmer, lead roles, etc. In Discord, you can also direct message people and make group direct messages. So if your director, for whatever reason, decides, oh, my whole department needs a group DM, they could make that. Or if your pod decides, hey, this is the best way of communicating for us, we'll make a group DM, stuff like that. So that's kind of the basics of it. Please turn on notifications. Mentioned this before, but saying it again, at least for mentions, because this will be extremely important. This is our main form of communication. So yeah, just keep that on. OK, so finally, the game is, can I get a drum roll, please? OK, and the game is the Weapon Teleport Platformer. So this is Alex Kissel's idea. Basically, the basic concept of the game is a player jumps around on different platforms, throws a weapon, and they can teleport to it, right? So that's the basic pitch. As for why we chose it, it has a strong core mechanic, so it boils down to just being a very basic 2D action platformer, right? There's basic combat and stuff, and it's just a very well-defined genre, but this game is also easily expandable, right? It's very low scope, so we can start off with this very simple core and add mechanics to it if we have time, and if that is something that is feasible for our team, but if not, that's okay, we can cut back. It's really just a good starting point. Yeah. All right, so moving on from there. Here is our timeline for production for this semester. So from today on until January 26th, we're going to be in pre-production. And then February 2nd, we'll have our proof of concept done. And then our first alpha will be on the 16th. I should probably cover what these are. So a proof of concept is like our minimum viable product of the game. This is the least amount that we can have where we can say this is this game, right? So for this game, I'm not exactly sure what the proof of concept will be. We haven't decided yet. But it could be something like a single level where the player can jump, teleport, use the core mechanic, and maybe interact with an enemy in some way, right? So very simple, just a rough idea of the game to kind of prove that this is worth working on and that we're moving in the right direction with the game. Then we have Alpha, and Alpha 1 and Alpha 2 are working on the same sorts of things. At the end of Alpha 2 is where we'll have our feature lock. This is where we stop adding any new mechanics to the game. So if we decide, oh, I want a mini-map in this game, or I want like a leveling system, something like that, at the end of Alpha 2 is where we decide we're not adding any more features like that at all. So that kind of gives you the basic idea there. And then beta at the end of that will be our content lock. This is where we stop adding any new assets to the game, such as new environments, new enemies, new levels, things like that. And then gold, the idea there is to work on refining the game, adding polish and juice, cleaning up animations, stuff like that, just making the game look and feel the best that it can and fixing any bug issues that we have. Then at the very end of the semester, we have Showcase. We'll be presenting at the Computer Games Showcase that Austin Yarger hosts for 494 and EMU games. Yeah.
One thing you mentioned, this I think is my fault. I forgot to add the label for beta 2. So it's not just like a whole month of bug fixing necessarily. There's normally one more milestone.
Right. Yeah. All right. So now I'm going to get into what pre-production is and what we'll be doing there. So in pre-production, we're going to be expanding on the game's design. Right now, we have a very, very simple core of just running, jumping, using the teleport, and engaging in combat with different enemies. So during pre-production, we're going to assess how we might want to go about expanding that. We had talked about incorporating different elements of certain pitches, but that is definitely not a guarantee at all of something that we're going to do. It is just something that we're going to start assessing, just to put that expectation out there. We're going to start working on picking a setting and a theme for the game, because right now it's very vague. I think the only thing that was mentioned in the pitch was a pit or an abyss. But that might not be where we go at all. We might pivot to something else entirely. Also during this time, we'll be teaching workflows. So artists will be learning how to use the different art programs that we'll be using. Programmers will be learning Unity and learning how to use Git and what our workflow and pipeline is like there. We'll also be teaching everyone how to use Jira as well. Also, we'll be making key assets. So this is things like an audio playlist of what the sonic tone of the game should be like, or several mood boards that give an idea of what our feeling of the game might be like, or a single piece of concept art that ties our game together. And these are just used so that everyone on the team gets an idea of the feeling of the game that we're making and where we're going with the project. Then we will also be determining who our pod members are based on what people are interested in and what they show proficiency in, and we'll also be figuring out who our leads should be. Okay, so moving on a little bit, Professor Yarger, who was going to guest speak about MDP grading, stepped out of the room, so we'll get back to that. But so we have some open positions on the team. So these are some things that aren't being covered currently. So anyone in charge of people with skills with system administration. So this is things like setting up servers and different services on servers for us to use, like getting our Bitbucket server or our Jira server, stuff like that set up. People interested in tools programming. So this could be like a level generation tool or something like that. People interested in web development who might want to make the website for the studio and handle adding pages to that, stuff like that. People interested in product or project management like Nico and I do. People interested in video editing who might want to make trailers for the game or things like that. People interested in graphic design who want to make t-shirts or posters or anything like that, any marketing things. Anyone interested in running a social media campaign for us or running several social media campaigns, more likely. Anyone interested in company outreach. So if any of you are interested in these things, please let us know. Or if any of you know anyone who would be interested in these things and you think would want to participate in a game dev studio in some fashion, let us know.
All right. So ladies and gentlemen, how many of you are in the kind of graded MDP portion of this club? Oh, that's awesome. Fantastic. For those of you who are in the course, registered via Wolverine Access, you will get credit for your contributions this semester, which is going to be pretty awesome. So MDP, grading, how does it work? Well, we could grade this for contribution, right? Outcome. Hey, were you able to implement something? Did you have an impact on the project? That has some issues because a lot of people who come onto the project, right, you want to learn. You want to come here, and when you're learning, right, you might have success, you might not have success. Failure and success are all part of that process. And I don't really want to grade you based on how much success you have. So here's how we're going to grade you, okay? We're going to grade you based on your evidence of investment. As in, as long as you're putting the time in and the effort in, and as long as you can prove that, you're going to get an A in this course, okay? This is not the kind of course you need to worry about doing well on the exam, okay? Or how the autograder is going to turn out. That's just not how this is going to be graded. So how are you going to prove that you've been investing the amount of time necessary? By the way, how much time is necessary? What's the expectation? Anyone know?
2.5 hours per credit hour.
Yeah, 2.5 hours, 3 hours per credit hour, essentially. So if you're taking this for 4 credits, 10, 12 hours per week, if you can prove that, you're getting an A, all right? So required time investment is about 3 hours per the number of credit hours you took the course, all right? You're going to prove that by doing bi-weekly dev blogs. Last semester, you proved your time investment by essentially doing a midterm kind of check-in and then a final check-in, where you would take screenshots of all the things you invested your time in, and you would post code, and you'd post art assets, and you just kind of right onto this big document. You do that twice. That was unsatisfying for several reasons. One, when you only do it like at the midway point of the course and at the very end of the course, you don't really remember what you've done all that well. You don't remember all the trials and tribulations. You don't remember all those really challenging bugs that ate up all of your time, right? So it's not very fun doing that. And then, when you just dump everything onto a random document, how do you actually use that stuff? Okay, because at the end of this course, what I want you to have is a portfolio, something you can very easily hand off to an interviewer and say, you know what, I don't have to tell you about all the cool stuff I did, let me show you, all right? Have you seen my online portfolio? Have you seen all the awesome screenshots? Have you seen our game trailer for the cool product we worked on? All right? So it's going to change a little bit. You are going to be writing your blog posts, essentially, on some sort of website that you set up. And I think this is probably going to sync with the sprints, right? Because the sprints are 2 weeks. Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. These blog posts are going to be public, okay? And they're going to be portfolio-ish. So you'll be able to show these things off pretty easily and get more value out of them. Your first assignment is going to be due in 1 week. The good news is it's extremely short. Depending on what you want to do, here is what the assignment actually looks like. If you look at your email inbox,
you've had a calendar event set up for you to remind you to submit this stuff in a week. Your first assignment is essentially setting up your dev blog. That can mean multiple things. That can mean going and using Weebly or Wix. Who's used either of those? Very easy to get a website up and running. I believe it's free. If you want to go a little bit funkier, you can use something like Jekyll to generate a static website, and then GitHub Pages or GitLab to host that static website. You could do that. And if you want to really kind of dive into the engineering, you can use an Amazon EC2 instance and set up WordPress or use DigitalOcean or something like that. That gives you a lot of flexibility. The spec, I'll be emailing it out to all of you tonight, so you'll have that very soon. If you ever have any questions on grading or any feedback that you want to give that isn't public, then you can always reach out to me, okay? Just say you are in 455, 355, 255, and I'll be happy to answer any questions, okay? Does anyone have any questions? And then I want to show you a quick example of a dev blog. Nigel?
Will we have to meet with you like bi-weekly?
No. There are way too many of you. I'm not actually getting paid for this, so we need to keep it efficient. All right. Any other questions? Okay, I want to show you a quick example. Did I put an example in here? You know what? There's an example linked on the assignment, so you're going to see those examples tonight. You'll see several. Okay. All right. Thank you.
So we're going to get started before we break off into our different departments and get to know each other. First, we are going to do a nice little icebreaker. So if everyone could say just their name, their major, and what department is, or what department they're in, just to get to know each other a little bit. So how about we start over there? I think that's everyone. Cool. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to break off into our different departments. We're going to get to know each other a little bit. If you have any questions for your department leads, ask them.
Which areas?
Yeah, I was just going to say, probably somewhere in the BBB. Don't wander too far because we're going to...
Corners.
Oh, corners. Yeah, okay. Corners of the room, or if there's not enough room, go out in the atrium, something like that. But try and be back in 15 minutes. We're going to have a couple more announcements and just some closing remarks. All right. I know everyone is very excited. I'm also very excited. But we just want to wrap up this meeting real quick. So a couple of final thoughts. So if any of you wanted to be leads, you want to be a pod lead, you really want to get involved in helping to run this studio, that's great. We are definitely looking for people to take on as new leadership for coming semesters. And probably the best way to do that is try to become a pod lead. And the best way to do that is during this pre-production time, putting in the time, putting in the effort, showing that you are going to be participating and going to put in the effort into the studio. Next up, remember, check Discord frequently. That's our main communication again, so please turn on notifications and please answer polls when we give them out. Click on on forms when we send them out, things like that. And reminder, these meetings will be weekly at Sunday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. in this room, 1690 BBB. And we'll also have work time on Mondays. Well, this is open work time, not required, but if you want to come and work in a space where other developers will be there to answer questions and work together and help each other out, that's great. That'll be in 2150 Dow. If no one knows where that is, we can send out a map later, from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Mondays. Also, I want to say real quick, Yarger asked me to say this, these Sunday meetings count for your MDP contribution time. So yeah, that's 1 or 2 hours every.
In general, any meeting associated with the club counts toward that time.
Oh, okay. Any meeting. And also, attendance is mandatory specifically for these Sunday meetings. So if you're in the MDP course and you're not coming to these meetings, this will negatively affect your grade. So please come to the meetings. If you have any questions, we'll be taking them now. And if we don't get to those questions, feel free to email the studio email or message me on Discord if you have any more. But we'll take questions for now.
So when you just mentioned pod leadership,
Yes.
was that like, since like Gino and Matt are the pod leads this semester, was that like for future semesters you can be a pod lead, or does each pod have a leader that you can?
No, each pod will have a leader. We only have 2 pod leads already decided because they were pod leads last semester, so we are sure of their leadership capabilities.
Sounds good.
So, yeah. Anyone else? Any other questions? Hold on.
So is the meeting time set in stone, or were we gonna do the form about that?
Yeah, I think we sent out when is good. This will take me a minute to go back, but we have when is good set up for people's availability. Jesus. Those are a lot of slides. All right, so if you fill out this when is good, this will get us an idea of people's availability on the weekends. And if there's a time that works for more people, that's great. That's probably what we'll move to. But if not, then we'll stay at this time. Yeah.
If we're not able to attend meetings due to time conflicts, like how do we let you guys know?
So probably message us, probably message me on Discord, and I will get you the lecture recording and the meeting slides. And I'm not sure how we want to go about that for MDP students, if we might have like a quick write-up or something done about like, oh, I watched this in some way. Just some way to let us know that you were there and viewed the content, I suppose. Yeah. Any other questions?
Should we have like Unity downloaded?
Yeah, so we will be sending out a message probably later today for the different departments of what software you need to install. So like getting Wise for the audio team, getting Illustrator for the art team, stuff like that. But everyone will be installing Git and Unity, so for sure that message will be coming out later today. Any other questions? All right, I guess that's it. Well, thank you so much for coming to this meeting. I'm very excited.